Hi, very good morning. I'm Dr. Janak Patel. I'm a general physician. Today we'll be discussing on one of the very interesting topic we call as prolactin. So prolactin is a hormone which is secreted by we call alpha cell of anterior pituitary gland. So we'll be discussing under the heading introduction, action, regulation, what are the different disorders, what will be the clinical features, investigations, differential diagnosis, treatment and complication. So prolactin is a hormone secreted by anterior pituitary gland and it has got effect on a breast glandular tissue where it increases the production of a milk. It is basically produced by acidophilic cell or we call alpha cell or we call eosinophilic cell of anterior pituitary gland and it is consisting of 199 amino acids. It has got no effect on any other endocrine glands. It does not regulate any secondary endocrine glands in human. So it has got direct effect on breast tissue, that is glandular tissue. We already told you those particular cells which are we call as alpha cells or we call eosinophilic cells or they are also called as mammotropins, lactotropes or mammotropes. They do not store, there is no storage, there is no feedback mechanism and it has got action on breast, gonads and secondary sex characters. Half-life is very short. There are different types of prolactin. We call a small prolactin, big prolactin and big prolactin. It is basically cleared by liver and kidney. This is a growth hormone structure. There is only change in this particular structure that NH2 is attached this way in prolactin while in a growth hormone it is this way how it is attached and there is one another link here on prolactin. So there is a very minor difference. Good number of time growth hormone has got little action like prolactin. Prolactin has got little action like growth hormone. So there are different types of prolactin. One we call as a small prolactin. There is another where two prolactin molecules are together, we call as a big prolactin. And where it is a bigger size, prolactin gets aggregated, then we call big prolactin. So these are the different types of prolactin. Again in a big it is Ig, IgG prolactin, IgA prolactin and prolactin aggregates. These are what you can come across in prolactin different types of forms. Source wise we have already told you it is an anterior pituitary gland we call lactotropes or mammotropes and they account for only 5% of total cells. You can have a prolactin secretion sometimes from extra pituitary tissue like endometrium, myometrium, decidua, some of the immune cells, brain, even from breast tissue, prostate, skin, adipose tissue, etc. You can have secretion. Then we call this as an ectopic prolactin secretions. This will be extra pituitary secretions. Action wise, the main action is on a breast tissue for development and lactation. It has also got effects on gonads for development of gonad and also for secondary sex characters. It has got also effect on liver. It increases the immunity by acting on a lymphoid tissue. Sorry, the spelling is long here. There are other actions also. It stimulates learning. It stimulates immune response. It reduces the body temperature, so it takes part little bit in body temperature regulation. It stimulates corticosteroid secretions because it has got little action like ACTH. It stimulates testosterone secretions and it maintains LH receptors. These are additional action. So prolactin is basically responsible for initiating, sustaining lactation and stimulation of breast development along with estrogen during pregnancy. This is the main function of prolactin. And there are other function of prolactin like it has got action on reproductive organs like testes and ovary. It inhibits ovulation by decreasing the secretion of LH and FSH during pregnancy. It regulates immune system by stimulating the T cell functions. So this is an additional effect of prolactin on an immune system. It also takes part in osmoregulation, transporting fluid, sodium, chloride and calcium across epithelial cells of intestinal membranes and promotes sodium, potassium and water retention in kidney. So by this particular action on GI tract as well as on kidney, it retains water. It retains water. And by retaining water, it increases the blood volume. So it takes part in osmoregulation also. And also it has got little effect on sodium, potassium balance as well as calcium via acting on intestinal membranes. It also takes part in fat metabolism, fat cell production and differentiation and regulation of fat cells. So these are the additional action of prolactin. It is acting on extrapituitary source, that is breast tissue, that is by paracrine system. Autocrine system, while it is acting on an extrapituitary source. So endocrine of pituitary source, the only anterior pituitary hormone that does not have any endocrine target tissue. So this is the hormone which acts on a different tissue but does not act on any endocrine target tissue. And it acts on pancreas by increasing insulin synthesis. It acts on liver by increasing the growth metabolism. It acts on different tissue by increasing the body weight and food intake. It acts on a breast tissue by increasing the lipid and protein synthesis. And also it acts on adipose tissue by increasing the adipogenesis. And it increases the lipid synthesis. So this is the action of prolactin on pancreas, liver, body tissue, that is muscle, fat tissue, breast tissue, etc. So these are the different actions of prolactin. Acting on a immune modulation, that is it acts on macrophages, granulocytes, killer cells, dendritic cells, beta cells and T cells, B cells and B cells. And these are all the different effects on all the different types of cells. So it will have an effect on the macrophages where it will increase the release of ROS, it will secrete cytokines, it will increase the secretion of chemical mediators like interleukins. Then on granulocytes, it increases the transportation of NOS and IRF1, activation of STAT1 and P38. It also acts on interferon gamma, proliferation of NK cells, cytotoxic activity. It acts on dendritic cells. It acts on a beta cell by increasing the proliferation of beta cells. It increases the production of IgM and IgG. And on T cell proliferation, it also gives rise to leukocyte factors, etc. All those factors are increased, and by which it helps in increasing the immunity of the person. Also, it has got little effect on the neurogenic cells, that is neurogenesis and neuroprotection. So prolactin alters the neural circuits to help in individual to cope up with stress. So during stress, it is beneficial. In a chronic stress exposure or depressive state, it is are known to affect neurogenesis. So neurogenesis is a process that produces a new neurons throughout the life, and that is how it is partially acting. So it has got neurogenesis as well as a neuroprotection during stress. Also, it has got the effect on metabolic function like proteins, fat. So prolactin receptors are expressed on multiple tissue, including adipose tissue. So in adipose tissue, it increases the lipogenesis. So it increases the adipose mass. In liver, pancreas and brain, it increases the protein synthesis. In pancreas, it increases the secretion of insulin. It has got adipogenicity and modulating the lipid metabolism. And it is anti-angiogenic property. These are all the metabolic effect of what we call as prolactin. In a male, up to 40% of the male pituitary gland is dedicated to lactotropes. While there is no male equivalent of lactation, many of other functions of prolactin in female can also be observed in male. So whatever are the additional functions other than breast secretions, that is lactation, is there in a male person. On male, it increases the parental behavior, parental care of offspring, rearing of offsprings, etc. So it increases the bond between the offspring and parents. The most consistent stimulant for prolactin secretion in the male is a stress. So stress becomes the most powerful stimulant in a male for secretion of a prolactin. During pregnancy, we know very well prolactin will inhibit FSH-LH and it will prevent ovulation, and that is how it is acting during that. Amniotic fluid also contains prolactin. So it has got little effect during pregnancy. So highest concentration you get during 15 to 20 weeks. And at the term, the secretion becomes little less. And it helps in production. That production is from fetal and mother hypophysis. And the function during pregnancy is osmoregulation to survive the intrauterine fluid environment and pulmonary maturation, raising the content of phospholipids and lecithin and sphingomyelins. And this is how the prolactin is acting during pregnancy on a fetus also. There is some evidence that prolactin produces major factors. Prolactin could be also a major factor in progression of a peripartum cardiomyopathy. And that is one of the predisposing factor for postpartum cardiomyopathy, or we call peripartum cardiomyopathy. And it augments the deterioration of the cardiac capillary network and its function. And that's the reason why if a prolactin level is high, it can precipitate progression of peripartum cardiomyopathy. We already mentioned regarding the breastfeeding, that is the nipple suction during breastfeeding favors the bigger amount of a hormone synthesis. The nipple and areola tissue terminal nerves are stimulated when the suction occurs. This stimulus will travel through the afferent nerve to the hypothalamus, providing a prolactin release by inhibiting the release of dopamine. So it will inhibit the dopamine. Dopamine ideally inhibits the secretion of prolactin. So as soon as the dopamine is inhibited, the secretion of prolactin will start. How the prolactin hormone secretion is controlled, or control of secretion of prolactin hormone. Incomplete blood-brain barrier at the region of the arcuate nucleus, allowing the direct action of dopamine neurons. So anterior pituitary will have a pre-prolactin that will be converted into prolactin, and this prolactin will be stimulated by norepinephrine and endorphins, as well as there is a neurotransmitter substance, inhibitory factors, regulates the prolactin secretions. That is we call as a dopamine. And this, there is a releasing factor, prolactin releasing factor, which will also have an effect on TSH secretions, as well as it will stimulate the secretion of prolactin. And prolactin will be inhibited by dopamine. So that is how it is being regulated. So there is an hypothalamic control, there is a feedback mechanism, there are some drugs which will increase the prolactin secretion. During pregnancy also there will be increased production of prolactin. Sucking liporex will also increase the prolactin secretion, and there will be other factors also. Like sleep, during sleep there is a prolactin secretion elevation. During stress also there is an increase of prolactin secretion. And even oxytocin, TRH, VIP, angiotensin 2, vasoactive peptides, significant increase in prolactin secretion because of oxytocin, TRH and angiotensin 2. These are all the factors other than hypothalamus which can increase the secretion of prolactin. So factor affecting the secretion where the prolactin secretion is increased are all these factors. Prolactin releasing hormone, estrogen, oxytocin, vasoactive peptides which are intestinal peptides, TRH hormones, breastfeeding, stress, sleep, dopamine antagonists, these are antipsychotic drugs, even a chest wall trauma, all this can increase your prolactin secretions. While only inhibitory factor which is very powerful is dopamine, which directly inhibits the prolactin secretions. While bromocriptine, by blocking dopamine secretions, it will inhibit dopamine agonist. Sorry, it will not block the secretions of dopamine. It is dopamine agonist, and by that action, it will inhibit the prolactin secretion. So bromocriptine is utilized in a prolactin secreting tumors, where it will decrease the size of tumor size. So bromocriptine becomes a treatment for dopamine what we call as prolactin secreting tumors. So it blocks the secretion of prolactin from prolactin secreting tumors, or we call as alpha cell tumors. So this is one of the drug which is being useful in that particular condition. So remember, dopamine and bromocriptine are inhibitor for prolactin secretions. So these are all the factors. There are many more factors like gastrin, calcitonin, melatonin, platelet activating factor, MSH, then gonadotrophic releasing hormone, growth hormone releasing factor. All those also are prolactin stimulators. But the most powerful are TRH, oxytocins. Those are more powerful. And these are all what we call as a non-pituitary or other factors like sleep, feeding, exercise, stress, coitus, menstrual cycle, pregnancy, amniotic fluid, puerperium, nursing, fetus itself, and neonates. During first 2 to 3 weeks after the birth, there is an increased production of prolactin. Prolactin also increases with puberty, pregnancy, puerperium, nursing during nursing, neonates 2 to 3 weeks after birth, feeding, exercise, stress, hypoglycemia, surgical stress, orgasm, nocturnal sleeps, etc. These are all the factors. Inhibitory factors we already mentioned, dopamine and what we call is a bromocriptine, most powerful, which inhibits the prolactin secretion. Also, gonadotropic releasing hormone associated peptides can inhibit, histamine can inhibit, GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid, SST, acetylcholine, all this can inhibit, but the most powerful dopamine we also call as a prolactin inhibitory factor and bromocriptine. And this is how the prolactin hormone is released. Prolactin releasing factor from hypothalamus will stimulate the alpha cell to release prolactin, and prolactin will have a direct effect on a breast, while dopamine will directly inhibit the prolactin production. Also, TRH has got inhibitory effect on prolactin. Sorry, TRH will stimulate. TRH will stimulate. Sorry. TRH will stimulate. So TRH will stimulate TSH production as well as prolactin production. So this will be that particular effect. And there will be inhibitory effect only by dopamine and other drugs like bromocriptine. So this will be that particular effect. There is prolactin has got no effect on any other endocrine tissue. No effect on any other endocrine tissue. So hypothalamus PRH will stimulate anterior pituitary to release prolactin, while dopamine will inhibit. So this will be prolactin secretion. And excess of prolactin can inhibit the hypothalamus to inhibit PRH and stimulate dopamine production. This is called short loop negative feedback mechanism. So prolactin level can stimulate dopamine production, which will inhibit the anterior pituitary. So this is called short loop positive feedback, while it will also inhibit the hypothalamus to secrete prolactin releasing factor, and that will be a negative feedback mechanism. So there is an inhibition of prolactin releasing factor, and there is a stimulation of prolactin inhibitory factor. That prolactin inhibitory factor is dopamine. So stimulation will be positive feedback, while inhibition will be negative feedback. So that will be the effect. And prolactin will have an effect on mammary gland for lactation, development plus lactation. We have already told you that sucking reflex will stimulate the areola and nipple. That stimulus will pass on through the afferent into the posterior horn. From there, via the tracts, it will go and stimulate the hypothalamus. And in hypothalamus, it will stimulate prolactin releasing factor and inhibit what we call as a dopamine or prolactin inhibitory factor. And this will release from anterior pituitary, what we call as release of hormones, that is prolactin releasing factor, while it will also stimulate the paraventricular nucleus to secrete oxytocin, which will have ejection, what we call as a milk ejection, lactation. From there, now it will go to neurohypophysis, that is hypothalamus, and it will secrete prolactin as well as oxytocin, milk production and ejection. So this already we have shown you that prolactin will stimulate dopamine release and it will inhibit TRH release. So that is how there is a regulation. Also we have told you that some of the other factors, that is estrogen, can also stimulate the release of prolactin from anterior pituitary. Dopamine will inhibit, TRH will stimulate, TRH will also stimulate. Now there are two types of disorders. One, increased production of prolactin we call as a hyperprolactinemia. Decreased production of a prolactin we call as a hypoprolactinemia. Hypoprolactinemia is basically because of autoimmune disease. It is also along with the destruction of the alpha cell we call hypopituitarism, along with the growth hormone deficiency. Hypothyroidism can also produce because of decreased production of TRH. That can also result into hypoprolactinemia. Or if a person is on a dopamine drugs, the drugs which blocks the dopamine, sorry, drugs which blocks like bromocriptine, that will decrease the prolactin production and results into hypoprolactinemia. It can be also there in a person with a menstrual. So because of this hypoprolactinemia, it will produce menstrual disorders, delayed puberty, infertility or subfertility. This will be the common symptoms what will be produced because of decreased prolactin level. We have already told you some of the common causes: hypopituitarism, excess of dopamine, autoimmune disease, growth hormone deficiency, in certain head injury, tubercular meningitis, and as a part of a Sheehan syndrome, that is panhypopituitarism. And we have told you that symptoms like ovarian disease, delayed puberty, infertility, impotency, and abnormal spermatogenesis. And in a lactating woman, lack of puerperial lactogenesis. This will be the effect of hypoprolactinemia. Now, opposite of that, hyperprolactinemia. The most common cause of increased prolactin production is because of the constant stress. Antipsychotic medicines, which increases the production of prolactin, and it blocks what we call as dopamine, because dopamine inhibits the prolactin, while the drugs which blocks the dopamine secretion will increase the prolactin production. In a case of a primary hypothyroidism, prolactin is stimulated by increased TRH level, because in hypothyroidism there is an increased level of TRH, and TRH will try to stimulate thyroid gland as well as it will stimulate alpha cell to secrete prolactin. Alpha cell glandular tumors or eosinophilic tumors will also have a increased production of prolactin. There are some non-cancerous tumor cells of pituitary glands, we call as adenomas, which is secreting prolactin. This we call as a prolactinomas. Idiopathic hypersecretion because of impaired secretion of dopamine can be there. Chest wall trauma, chronic renal failure, etc. can also increase the level of prolactin. Because of hyperprolactinemia, you can have some of the symptoms in women: oligomenorrhea or amenorrhea, total lack of menstrual cycle. Because of increased prolactin, breast development and galactorrhea, infertility, and there will be also hirsutism, that is growth of a hair on the beard as well as mustache. And on a bone, it will produce osteoporosis. While in a male, it can produce gynecomastia, impotency, osteoporosis, and even sometimes, even a male can have galactorrhea. In both sexes, tumor, if it is present, whether it is in a female or a male, it can produce a tumor effects like raised intracranial pressure, headache, vomiting, blood vision, and by producing the compression effect on optic chiasma, bitemporal hemianopia, quadrantic hemianopia, particularly upper quadrantic homonymous hemianopia, upper quadrantic temporal lobe homonymous hemianopias, scotomas. If it expands into cavernous sinus, third, fourth, 5, 6 cranial palsy, if it destroys the sella turcica flow, it can produce CSF rhinorrhea, or if it extends up, it can produce compression of the third ventricle producing occult hydrocephalus, and also it can have invasion into hypothalamic region and produces decreased production of releasing factor from hypothalamus, and that can finally end up with panhypopituitarism. Also, it will compress the beta cells to decrease the production of TSH, ACTH, and gonadotropic hormones like FSH and LH, and that can also produce hypopituitarism. So this will be the effect because of the tumor. So There are some physiological factors which can increase the production of a prolactin like pain, nipple stimulation, pregnancy, pelvic examination, exercise, stress, sleep, etc. Or you are giving a dopamine antagonist or dopamine depleting agents, narcotics. You can have oversecretion from hypothalamus, pituitary adenomas, primary hypothyroidism, or polycystic ovarian syndromes. Or once in a while you can have a idiopathic where you can't identify the cause. This will be some of the drugs which can increase the prolactin secretion. We are not going into detail regarding those drugs, particularly in hypertensive drugs like methyl-dopa, verapamil, GI tract, metoclopramide, cimetidine. These are now not utilized. Cimetidine is H2 receptor antagonist, which are not utilized. Metoclopramide is still utilized for vomiting purpose. It is an antiemetic drugs. So these are some of the factors which can increase the prolactin productions. So these are all those particular slides showing you how the prolactin production is increased. Clinical feature which we have already discussed, galactorrhea can be there, infertility, oligomenorrhea and amenorrhea. Hirsutism can develop very easily, and there is a decreased libido, and on a bone it will start producing osteoporosis. So among women, amenorrhea is seen in 9%, galactorrhea in 25%, and amenorrhea with galactorrhea in almost 70% of the female. And in a male, impotency and infertility is seen only in 5% of male. So in a male, relatively, galactorrhea is not a common feature, but impotency and infertility is a very, very common feature. In a premenopausal woman, as the prolactin level decreases, there is a short luteal phase, oligomenorrhea, decreased libido, infertility. And secondarily, there is an increased body weight, osteopenia, and decreased bone loss. Also, there will be hypogonadism, galactorrhea, and amenorrhea. This will be some of the features which can be seen in a female. So, galactorrhea, ovulatory dysfunctions, menstrual cycle dysfunctions, osteoporosis, headache. These are all pressure symptoms. Headache, bitemporal hemianopias. Hirsutism will be also very commonly seen in a female. While in a male, decreased libido, impotency, decreased sperm count, infertility, gynecomastia, and rarely galactorrhea. Decreased muscle mass, body hairs are reduced, osteoporosis, oligospermia, and because of the increased tumor mass, headache, visual field defects, and I have already discussed many findings along with a tumor mass. As the tumor mass increases, it will produce more and more symptoms. So this will be all the features in a male. So this is in summary, female galactorrhea, amenorrhea, oligomenorrhea, infertility, and fractures. Quite common because of osteoporosis. While libido, impotency, infertility, gynecomastia, and galactorrhea. Here you can add even hirsutism. History of fractures and osteoporosis will be very common with person having a hyperprolactinemia. So these are all those effects. And additional effects, it stimulates the dopamine turnover in some brain areas. It decreases the dopamine turnover in some brain areas, that is substantia nigra. It stimulates learning process, it stimulates the immune response, stimulates oxytocin, it stimulates opioid neurons, decreases the gonadotropins, by which it decreases the libido, it increases the libido, and it also produces sterility, decreases testosterone production, libido will be there in both sex, and osteoporosis because it decreases the bone mineralization. It is more frequent in female because of absence of father and alcoholic father. So that also can be one of the factors which can have a hyperprolactinemia. And as a psychosomatic reaction also it can be, and also it can give rise to what we call as a pseudo pregnancy. So this is how the nipple discharge and effects are there. So any female who has got galactoria, history is very important. If it is unilateral, single duct, bloody discharge, serosanguinous discharge associated with the breast mass, try to rule out malignancy. On examination, look for the breast tumor, adenomas. Look for that. And this is that particular chart showing you how you approach. How you approach for a galactoria patient. So you can go through at your leisure time. I'm not going into that detail. So if it is a bilateral multiductal, milk is usually yellow or greenish or brown in color. Check for prolactin level. And if the prolactin level is elevated, it is in favor of hyperprolactinemia. So indication of the prolactin assay, secondary amenorrhea, galactoria, ovulatory dysfunctions like amenorrhea, oligomenorrhea, unexplained infertility, and in a male, oligospermia. Prolactin level should be examined. And once the prolactin level is examined, and if the person has got hyperprolactinemia, you try to identify the cause for hyperprolactinemia and treat accordingly. So if the prolactin level is more than 100, it is suggestive of adenoma. More than 300, 100% diagnostic of adenoma. And if it is more than 2000, very frequently there is a big tumor we call prolactinoma, which is invading into cavernous sinus invasion. And that is a very, very common findings which you can come across. So depending upon the prolactin level, you can suspect tumors and you can suspect invasions. Indication for sella turcica evaluation. If anytime the prolactin level is more than 100, go for radiological studies. Neurological examination. If it suggests a compressive symptoms on optic chiasma, hypothalamus, obstructive hydrocephalus, or if a person has got CSF rhinorrhea, etc., you should go for sella turcica evaluation. Amenorrheic galactoria resistant to treatment and associated with negative progesterone withdrawal test, then also go for sella turcica evaluation. Thyroid function test should be also done because a primary hypothyroidism will stimulate TRH production and that TRH can produce hyperprolactinemia. So that should be one of the function which can tell you that primary hypothyroidism is responsible for hyperprolactinemia. Liver function test and kidney function test in a CKD and a liver function damage, alcoholic person. Because of damage to the liver, there is an increased prolactin level. So that is responsible for. So in kidney and liver disease, prolactin level are increased. And also in a case of a primary hypothyroidism, prolactin levels are elevated. So do TFT, that is thyroid function test, blood urea creatinine, and human gonadotrophic hormone should be also done. Examine visual field defect if you are suspecting pituitary adenoma. Look for thyroid goiter in a person with a thyroid disorders. Examine breast for a galactoria and look for a chest wall trauma, particularly burns, scar, etc. Recent burn, scar can also increase the prolactin level. Treatment for hyperprolactinemia, main aim is to normalize the gonadal function, normalize the fertility state and decrease the osteoporosis, prevention of osteoporosis. Drug-induced hyperprolactinemia, stop that particular drug, by and large it is reversible. If a prolactin level is between 25 to 100, usually it reverses back by stopping those particular drugs. And if the prolactin level is very high, then look for prolactin secreting tumors, prolactinomas, by doing MRI studies. Also start estrogen and testosterone along with treatment for hyperprolactinemia. If the drug cannot discontinue and the patient have hypogonadism, you will have to give estrogen and testosterone. In a male, testosterone; in a female, estrogen. So evaluate by doing a MRI study, whether there is a prolactin tumors or there is something what is happening to the hypothalamic area, damage to the hypothalamic area, and person gets secondary to that hyperprolactinemia. If there is a big size tumor, easily detectable, a microadenoma may be difficult to detect sometimes. So MRI can detect micro as well as macroadenomas, and in person with a normal MRI and asymptomatic, you can do the measurement of the prolactin and decide regarding the treatment. But if a person is symptomatic and there is no tumor detectable, dopamine agonist can be utilized, like bromocriptine. If there is a microadenoma and symptomatic, then also dopamine agonist is utilized. While if there is a macroadenoma, measure the size of the tumor, associated deficiency, symptom signs of raised intracranial pressure, invasion, etc. And then you can decide regarding a treatment, what we call as dopamine agonist with surgery or radiotherapy. So that can be decided. And while doing a surgery or a radiotherapy, you have to think of preserving the other pituitary cell functions, because when you do a surgery, you are likely to produce pan-hypopituitarism, or even in a radiotherapy, there is a chance of getting pan-hypopituitarism. So first drug of choice will be bromocriptine. So this will be what you do in a microadenomas. So this is called hook phenomena. Indication of a pituitary surgery in a hyperprolactinemia when it is resistant to the medical therapy, and if the intracellular tumor is not responding to long-term drug therapy, tumor pressing on the optic chiasma. Surgery should be avoided in case of an extracellular without optic chiasma compression because there is a low success rate. So in a microadenoma, dopamine agonist is the first drug of choice. And you can use bromocriptine and cabergoline. This is the two common drugs which are being utilized. Bromocriptine is the most common, and second common drug utilized is cabergoline. And that decreases the tumor size by 62%. They resolve the visual field. Visual field improvement will be in almost 67%. We can close to 70%. Amenorrhea will be resolved in almost 80% of the people. Infertility will be resolved in almost 50% of the person. Sexual function will also improve in almost 70%. Galactorrhea will resolve in almost close to 85%, and prolactin level will come back to normal in almost 70%. So the results are very good by dopamine agonist. And what is most important, if the tumor size is big, it can reduce up to 60%, and that will also reduce the pressure effects on visual fields, etc. So in a microadenoma, wonderful drugs. And if it does not respond, then you can decide for pituitary surgery. If it does not give results, symptoms are still persistent, and there is a dopamine agonist resistance, then in that case you can go for switch from bromocriptine to cabergoline, and then you can decide regarding a surgery or you can go for a radiotherapy. So dopamine agonist therapy may be tapered after some period of time if the prolactin level has come back to normal. So these are all the treatment. This is diagnosis, laboratory investigation you do. You try to find out what is the etiology. By MRI scan, you can identify microadenoma or macroadenoma. You can decide regarding a visual field defect test, whether there is a compressive symptoms. And then you go for bromocriptine and cabergoline. If that is not effective, you can go for surgical removal or radiotherapy for a large pituitary tumor. And you can also replace thyroid hormone therapy if the person has got a primary hypothyroidism, and if a person has got a hypogonadism which is not responding, you can go for a hormonal therapy. In a female, estrogen; in a male, testosterone. In a female, you will give estrogen, progesterone, etc. And if a person develops, stop the drug causing, all drugs should be stopped, particularly some of the drugs which is blocking dopamine. So those drugs should be stopped. Metoclopramide, etc. can be also stopped. And in a case of person with PCOS, liver damage and renal, you might require these drugs for a longer period. So dopamine agonist to lower the prolactin level, to decrease the tumor size, to restore the gonadal functions for the patient. Dopamine agonists like bromocriptine and cabergoline are commonly utilized. Bromocriptine is most common, and in a female there are some side effects like vaginal use of pills, vaginal bioadhesive suppositories, etc. cannot tolerate that. Cabergoline is better than bromocriptine. So these are the indications for what we call as a medical treatment: galactorrhea, amenorrhea, infertility, visual field defects, cranial palsy. If there is a detection of a pituitary tumors, diminished libido, osteoporosis, etc. becomes the medical indications. And medical goals should be to decrease the secretion of prolactin, to reduce the size of the tumor, and to prevent the progress and recurrence. So bromocriptine and dopamine agonist will block the secretions of what we call as a prolactin, as well as it will inhibit the anterior pituitary to produce prolactin, and prolactin level will come down. By and large, the surgery what is being done is a transsphenoidal surgery. But while doing a surgery, there is always a chance of destroying the surrounding tissue, and person can develop a hypopituitarism and finally ends up into panhypopituitarism. Complications of hyperprolactinemia is very common, most common. Secondary amenorrhea, galactorrhea, ovulatory dysfunction, infertility, oligospermia in male, libido in both, osteoporosis in both, and because of a tumor itself, headache, blurred vision, visual field defects like bitemporal hemianopia, quadrantic field hemianopias, scotomas, hypothalamic damage, hypothalamus damage, damage to surrounding structures like third, fourth, fifth, sixth cranial nerve, 3, 4, 5, and 6 cranial nerves, cranial palsy, CSF rhinorias. It can also produce occult hydrocephalus, etc. And in a female, it can also produce hirsutism. And during puerperial, in a hypopituitarism, it can produce hypoprolactinemia, and it can produce lack of puerperial lactogenesis. This will be the complication in hypoprolactinemia. Secondary to hypoprolactinemia, also you can have menstrual field defects, menstrual cycle defects, infertility, libido, etc. So it is now given a name, prolactin, that is promotes lactation. So cabergoline is one of the treatment. Stop ranitidine. During pregnancy, look at the thyroid hormones, look for neoplasia, look for abnormal level of prolactin. Infertility and impotency becomes the conditions where you require an prolactin level estimation. In primary hypothyroidism, also look for prolactin level, look for ovulation, etc. I end my lecture here. I hope this lecture may be helpful to you in your everyday practice, particularly the person who is practicing in a gynecology department.